Welcome to Sausage on a Fork, a podcast dedicated to the UK's longest running children's drama programme, Grange Hill. My name's Neil, and in each episode I'll interview a former cast member about their life before, during and after their time on the programme. Okay, welcome to the latest episode of Sausage on a Fork, and I am absolutely delighted to say that I have been joined for this episode by none other than Darren Kempson, who played Gabriel Woods. Darren, welcome to Sausage on a Fork.
Thank you, Neil. It's been a little while. You've been out of me for a little while now to get on the show, and I've been batting it back for a little while. But no, finally on there, and looking forward to it.
Brilliant. So what we'll do, Darren, is we'll start this episode the way we start every episode. And if you could tell us how you first got into acting.
So it was really by accident, if I'm honest. My little sister was at a local dancing school, and they also was an agent for children to do commercials and theatre. And my mum just was going up to collect her regularly each week at a dancing school, and then got talking to the owner, and mentioned that they had a load of girls on the books for acting, but one thing they was really lacking was sort of boys, from the age of sort of 10, 12, around that sort of age. And she said, "Oh, well, I could ask my son," because I was about that age then. And she said, "I could ask my son. I'm not sure what he'll say, but we can ask him." And so she came back and she asked me, and I thought about it, and I thought, yeah, okay, well, what's there to lose? It might be quite fun, something different.
Yeah.
And it just sort of snowballed from there. I just went to auditions and started getting commercials, and then other bits and pieces. Then obviously Grange Hill come along, and episodes of Bill and things like that. So it was just a complete accident how I got into it, and then it just went from there.
Yeah. So let's wind back there, because you just mentioned that you got commercials, and for me, I remember you vividly from the Roundstree's Fruit Gum advert with Kevin the Fruit Bat, because that was recurring, because in those days they used to do adverts and they would do a series of them, wouldn't they?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 15 of those in total.
Wow.
We filmed them over three years. I think the first time there was four done, and then they went down really well. So the following year they called me back and said, "We want to do 5 more," and then the next year after that we want to do another 6 or 7. I think 14 out of the 15 were actually shown.
Right.
But yeah, it's sort of from something that I thought was just going to be a one-off commercial, ended up lasting for 15 commercials. Yeah.
You're not still in touch with Kevin, are you?
Unfortunately not. He flew away somewhere. I don't know where he's gone.
So that was the thing that I always remembered you from. Did you get much more work, or did you get to work with anyone who we may well have known?
Yeah, as I started to get a little bit older into my sort of teenage years, bigger things were coming rather than just one-off commercials for all different brands. At the start, when I was maybe sort of 10 to 12, I went into Grange Hill when I was, I think, maybe around 15.
Right.
And then bigger things started to come about. So then I done a couple of series of a BBC drama called Real Women that had quite a big cast in it.
Yeah.
And I done a film with Nigel Plano's in The Young Ones, played Neil in The Young with him. So yeah, there's been quite a few over the years.
Oh, good.
But yeah, obviously the biggest thing that sort of most people know me for is Grange Hill.
Yeah, so we'll talk about Grange Hill then, because obviously, as you said there, it's the biggest thing you say people remember for. If me, as I've already said, it's the Fruit Gums adverts for me. That's the thing that I was, because when you went into Grange Hill, I remember saying, "He's the lad." I remember looking at you and thinking, "That's the lad from the Fruit Gums adverts." Like that. So I'm not going to mention the adverts anymore now. But so how did Grange Hill come about for you then?
So I'd auditioned for it probably about 6 to 12 months before I actually got the part, because I went for an audition for a totally different character, and then my agent came back to me a couple of weeks after that, 2 or 3 weeks after that, and she said they've been in contact. Grange Hill been in contact, and they're not going to give you the part this time, but they want to keep you for potentially something a little bit down the road.
Right.
And I thought that might just be a polite way of saying thanks, but no thanks. But
yeah.
To be fair, they came back, maybe sort of 6 to 9 months after that, and said, right, we've got another part. We want you to read for it, but we pretty much want you for that part.
Right.
And then I think that may have only supposed to have been for just a handful of episodes, because I think there was some people who were hanging around with Jacko and Brian at the time, who were off doing other things. And so they thought we need to sort of build that up again a little bit. So I came in then, and then sort of hung around for the next 4 years. So I must have done something right. But from something that was supposed to be, I think, although it was never officially said to me, was just supposed to be a sort of a stopgap.
Yeah.
Turned into 3 or 4 more series. Yeah.
Yeah, because the Jacko and Brian friendship group, it did change a lot. You know, there'd been Lockout, and there'd been Lee, there'd been Stewart, and those it was always sort of interchangeable, a bit like Destiny's Child. There was always someone different in there. So were you a fan of Grange Hill at the time then?
I was, yeah. I think like most people that sort of age, I think everyone was fans of Grange. I watched it pretty much every episode before that. So it was pretty weird walking in on my first day into the big rehearsal room, all sitting in a big circle, ready to read the scripts, and just sort of looking around and wow, I know them. I know him.
and as a 15-year-old or whatever, you've gone in there thinking, like, this is totally normal. I've got to act like I've got to be professional here. Or where you're like looking, thinking, oh my god, like
pretty much trying to give the poker face that everything was all right. But when I walked in there, I went and sat down on a chair, just picked a random chair in this circle, and then all of a sudden Kelly George just took the next chair next to me.
Wow.
So it was almost like, and he was probably one of the bigger faces at that time as well in Grange Hill, and I thought, throw me straight in at the deep end here. But straight away he introduced himself, shook hands, and we had a quick chat and made me feel really at ease. He obviously knew I was new, and made me feel really welcome and relaxed about it.
Yeah, so you were an agency, so you weren't at stage school, were you? Or
no, I was with Sylvia Young Theatre School. Never actually went to the school, so I didn't come from that sort of background. But I used Sylvia as my agent. Yeah,
right. So it wasn't like you knew people already, because I know some people have said that when they went, they knew so and so from school, so it was a little bit easier for them. But there was no one there that you knew previously.
No, I'd never worked with anyone there. Obviously, they were familiar faces to me, and I suppose I was, because of the Fruit Gums advert. I'm probably a familiar face to some of them as well.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll talk then about you put your time in Grange Hill. So you came in series 16, which was on air in 1993, and you were in year 10 at the time. There was no big introduction to Gabriel. It wasn't like, oh, there's a new kid at the school. It was like he'd always been there. He'd always been a mate of Jacko and Brian. And the first scene that you're in was an art lesson, and they were using clay. And Gabriel's saying it was like being back in nursery school, using plasticine and whatever. And like we said, he was already with Brian and Jacko, and they'd made something long and pointy, right? That's all I'll say there. Because Julie Corrigan asked them what it was, and they said to it, well, what do you think it is?
Did she then come along and cry something like that?
She does, yeah. It gets crushed later on. It gets crushed later on, and Brian says, oh, you've ruined our rocket now. And Gabriel says, oh, is that what it was?
I remember that.
But round this time, one of the storylines was about a girl called Mary, who was a traveller. But we didn't notice at the time that that's what her background was. And Julian and Robin had been having a chat about it, and Julie didn't like Mary for some reason. I thought she just had it in that she didn't like her, and she told us she'd followed her to the park and she'd met up with a load of lads. And Julie then said that Gabriel and the others had said she was a slag. So Robin kicked off. She went straight over and Gabriel was like, "Well, we were only having a laugh because of what Julie had told them about having all these boyfriends and that she carried a you know what in her bag," was the words that Gabriel used. And that's when Robin said, she was sick of the attitude of people in the school, and that was when she smashed the rocket. But that was one of the things about Grange Hill. It didn't shy away from conversations like that. The fact that that's been shown on a kids' TV program for everyone to be drawing their own conclusions. First of all, what the lads are making with the plasticine, then the word slag being used, and then the conversation that went on afterwards as well. And I just thought that pretty ballsy for a kids' TV program to be showing that all at once, And there was a bit where you were in a French lesson. They were having a French breakfast, and Becky had said that's the last of the hot chocolates, and the French teacher said they had to say it in French. So Gabriel said the exact same thing, but just with a French accent on.
That's pretty much what I do now, I think, if I'm honest.
But he then says it perfectly in French, and I was going to ask, were you any good at French? Was French your thing, or would you have had to be taught that?
No, I was definitely, because it was only just a very short sentence. I got a lot of help from someone who was a French speaker, and after practicing it quite a few times, it did eventually stick, and I got it pretty much spot on. But I was quite proud of myself.
Brilliant. And there was a bit where the media room had been burgled. When you remember, schools used to have media rooms, and Gabriel was convinced that Mick and Barry had something to do with it, because they were like the school bullies, but they were also, Mick was into so much more, it seemed, than just being a bully. So you see Gabriel talking to them about, the dye that gets used as an anti-theft device. And well, they said they were okay because, they had no dye on their hands. And Gabriel's saying well, yeah, there's no problem with your hands, but your brain's another story, is what he said to Barry Timpson. And then he tells them to keep their hands in their pockets and walks off. And later, Gabriel then tells Mick and Barry that Mr. Robson wants to see them in the media room at lunchtime. And Gabriel seems to be enjoying all this. And I think it's because Mick and Barry were horrible lads, and he just wants to see them to get the comeuppance. But it did turn out that they had actually nothing to do with it whatsoever. I think Mick just liked having that thing of, everyone thinks I'm the school gangster. It's good if it looks like I've done it. And this bit was weird, where it was a Saturday, and Gabriel and his mates had bumped into Becky, and Becky said she was going round to Robin's house, and they asked if they could go with her, and she was said that they couldn't. But the lads decided to follow her anyway, which at the age of 15 and year 10, it didn't seem like the type of thing that certainly not many lads I knew would be doing, just following someone round to someone's house. But it didn't work because they were rubbish at hiding. And as soon as Becky got to Robin, she told the girls that were there that the lads had been following them. And then they look out the window, and the lads were hiding behind bins and the wall and stuff. And it's so stupid, but so Gabriel at the same time. And the girls decided to go to the church where Ray's brother was getting married. And this is what it all built up to. It was like one of them end of series episodes where the whole cast are all in the one place at once. And the lads followed them to the church as well, and the lads jumped out on them in the churchyard, but they never flinched because they already knew that they'd followed them there. And like I say, everyone ended up at the church chasing the car away. Is how that series ended. But like I say, there, we've talked about Gabriel and his mates. So who would you say were your best mates on the program?
I mean, because of obviously the scenes with Gabriel and his character with Jacko and Rob, sort of become good friends with Ian and Jamie, pretty much straight away. But it was, I mean, it's an old cliche that it's all like one big family, but it was. I mean, we'd speak to people who played in the younger years and the older years, even if you didn't have scenes with them, because you was constantly in and around the rehearsal rooms and the green rooms and everything else. Everyone really got on, but then it sort of more characters came in, like Martino came in a year or two after that, and so we then sort of become good friends, and there was Alan Cave and Stephen Hammett, Jamie Groves, who just everyone seemed to get on and have a good laugh and have a lot of real kids at the end of the day at the same age. So we all had a lot in common and sharing stories and having laughs with each other.
Brilliant. So that moves us on then to the next year, Series 17. Gabriel's in the 50th year now, and we see Gabriel and Brian go to Jacko's house and have a conversation with Jacko's dad. And Jacko's dad, when I saw this, this is me being starstruck watching the telly. The fact that Jacko's dad was played by Jim Barclay, who'd been Jossie in Jossie's Giants.
Yeah. I was exactly the same as you.
That must have been amazing. That walking in and Jossie's there,
it was a surprise because I didn't know his name, so I didn't know him by name. So when you saw the script and the character who was playing who, it didn't ring a bell with me or anything. It was just a name. So I thought, right, okay. And then we turned up and I saw him and I thought, shit, that's Jossie's Giants, right? I remember him. And I think I was trying to tell Ian about it. I was starstruck.
Yeah.
I remember trying to tell either Ian or Jamie, I was trying to tell. And they was like, well, I've never even heard of it. I don't know what it is. And I was like, come on, you must know Jossie's Giants.
The only kids program at that time about football. Like everyone I knew watched it. You know what I mean? Every lad I knew watched Jossie's Giants just because it was about football. It doesn't matter. I couldn't tell you anything that happened in it. I couldn't tell you if it was good, if it was bad, but it was about football. So every lad was watching it by us. And Gabriel became part of the drama group that was putting on a production of Romeo and Juliet. That's what they originally wanted to do. But they weren't really getting it. So Martha Jordan, the American teacher, got them to do an improvisation of a group of lads and girls in a club. Now, the improvisation didn't go the right way. And the lads all decided to leave the group. If you remember that, there was big arguments. It started off like it was an improvisation in a group, but then it started getting personal and the lads and the girls started giving each other grief and the lads just walked out. They were led by Joe, as you just said there, Martino. And the lads all walked out. So the girls decided to carry on with the drama group. And the lads couldn't believe that the girls were carrying on without them. That's just the way the lads are at that age. And they gate crashed a meeting of the group. And there was no teacher in there at the time. And the lads tried to hijack it. So Jessica took Joe's cap. And the lads gathered round her trying to get it back. And this is when Jessica was then assaulted, which again, another big storyline for a kids' TV program to be putting out. She was groped by one of the lads, but nobody knew who it was. So all the lads were under suspicion. Now, from what I've heard when Ian was on, Ian said that at the time of filming that, you didn't know who was supposed to be the one that had actually groped Jessica. Is that right? Can you remember anything about that?
Well, but I vaguely remember it. Yeah, I do vaguely remember it. And it was a little bit clouded as to what they wanted us to know, if I remember rightly. So we was all sort of looking at each other thinking, well, it's one of us.
Yeah.
But which one is it?
But that's right. I think I said that to me, and I said, that must make it, that must make it better for you at the time. When you're acting them scenes and you're just reading the script, but you don't actually know who it is that's supposed to have done it. And like I said, I just think it adds to that a little bit more mystique as well. The fact that none of you knew who it was until it came out later on.
The thing with that and the beauty of the way that Granger worked, although they would tackle big, strong storylines, they were also careful with the actors, with things like that, because they it wasn't just a case of, well, we'll give them this big storyline that's going to be tricky for everybody to deal with it and how we deal with it, and just throw because at the end of the day, we were kids as well, and just to throw them into that without sort of trying to protect them as well. Yeah. I think showed why Granger was so good with things like that they would take on the big storylines, but they wouldn't just sell someone down the river with it. And they would, to a degree, protect you from what could transpire from that.
Yeah, because I know in the early days they didn't always do that. So if you're talking back to you know, the likes of Gripper. So when Gripper was in it, and Gripper was like, you know, big bully, but a racist as well, he wasn't protected. Mark Savage wasn't protected. So he was just sort of left, and, you know, we would always be getting into fights and stuff because people wanted to have a go. And it was when the late Gwyneth Paltrow was on here, Mrs. McCluskey, and she said when the Zamo storyline came in, she said to you know, the bosses there, you've got to look after him. You know, it needs to be made clear that it's the character and it's not him. You know, so it's good for what you said there. Things obviously did change. You know, it's good that you were protected in that way. Definitely. Now, we've mentioned that the drama group. Gabriel liked this performing arts because he also, for a bit, ended up in the choir with Mr. Maniaci, and they were all singing in Latin at one point. Now, I noticed that when it was a scene with dialogue, you and Ian, who played Brian, were right at the front. But when it was a scene where you were all singing, you were both at the back.
That would be why I didn't go to drama school, because there was no way I was singing and dancing. So yeah, things like that. I don't mind the acting part of it. That would be fine. But anything more than that, yeah, I'd start hiding in the background.
It's so weird because I watched the scene and you're sat right at the front and you're chatting away and delivering your lines, and then it goes to something else and it comes back and everyone's in exactly the same place except Gabriel and Brian, who've literally been placed out the way at the back.
Terrible for continuity.
I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't an intentional thing, but obviously it was. So we've mentioned the drama group and like the fact that the girls were determined to put the play on, and they wrote their own play about being a girl and the attitude to girls that the lads had, and they weren't allowed to put it on in the school. And when the lads asked them why, the girls said it was too hot to handle. Gabriel, Joe, and Brian assumed that they meant it had too much sex in it. And they said they'd be there whenever they put it on, wherever they put it on. So they put it on in the park. Loads of the lads went expecting to see like loads of sex and all this. And it just wasn't like that at all. And the lads were all pretty disappointed in the end. Like, but then this is where it then came out about Brian. And it'd been Brian who'd been the one that had assaulted Jessica. But what I like about that is the reaction of all the other lads when they found out that it was Brian. You know, Joe and Gabriel went round straight away. They grabbed hold of him and kicked off and didn't give him a beating, which maybe, you know, I don't think a few slaps would have been amiss in that situation, to be honest. Like, but I like the fact that it was the other lads was sticking up for Jessica there, and they went round and grabbed him and took him round to apologise to Jessica. And we've already said about, you know, the storylines it was showing, but again, you know, for a kids' TV program to be showing that, and the fact that that could go on, and the way all the different characters handled it as well, the fact that Jessica didn't want it going any further in the end, she didn't want to be reminded of it, because that's a true thing, isn't it? When that happens to someone, they don't always want to be reminded of it. They don't always want to tell about it. And I just thought it was brilliant that Grange Hill took that stance on it. And there's a scene where Mr. Hankin, played by Lee Corns, sees Gabriel standing on the corridor and says there's something strange in the air. And Gabriel was like, well, say, this is Grange Hill. It's not the Bermuda Triangle. Mr. Hankin walked away. And it became apparent that Gabriel, while he was standing there doing nothing, was actually keeping watch for teachers so that the computer tennis tournament could take place. And Mrs. Monroe came and asked Gabriel the exact same thing. And he said that the only unusual thing he'd seen was Mr. Hankin. Now, I've just mentioned two teachers there, Mr. Hankin, played by Lee Corns, and Mrs. Monroe, played by Anna Quayle. They must have been brilliant to work with and to get to know.
I think that scene with Anna, I don't think I'd done another scene with her. I might be wrong, but I don't think I did. For whatever reason, our paths didn't really cross in terms of characters. With Lee, we've done a few things, but both unbelievably nice people. I remember reaching out to Lee when my my stint at Grange Hill come to an end, it was a case of, right, what next? What do I do now? And I remember reaching out to Lee, and he sort of gave me some really good advice. He gave me some contacts for adult agents. So from going from a child actor now into an adult actor. And he gave me some good contacts and some really, really good advice. And I think that showed the sort of, the character of him, that he wasn't just in it for himself. He wanted to other people around him as well to get the next steps up onto what they wanted to do in their career by pushing. But there was loads. There was loads. It wasn't just those two. In terms of who were prepared to be really genuinely nice, good people.
Yeah. I mean, were you aware of how famous and how big those two people were?
Yeah, because I think they were both there before I got there. Right. Around about that time. So again, because I was a fan of Grange Hill, you straight away you know that these are two big characters in it. And then you sort of, like I said earlier, it's really strange how they make you feel so at ease, the people there. That you'd walk in and you think, bearing in mind, if I walked into a room now, it wouldn't bother me. I'm an adult now. But at the time I was, maybe 13, 14. So you can imagine how daunting something like that is. But literally before the first day was out, I felt so much at ease because of people like that who would literally go out of their way. It would be very easy for them to close themselves off, do their job, go home. But there was more to it than that, and they would all come over, especially the new people that arrived. They would always go over and introduce themselves and just make them feel so much more at ease.
Yeah, brilliant. So I've just mentioned the computer tennis tournaments. So Gabriel had obviously entered it, but didn't get very far in it. But then they were all caught playing the tournament, which seems like a strange thing, but it was because of the money involved and the gambling. That's why they all got into trouble with it. Because when you watch it, you're thinking, why are they so bothered about this tournament? But it's because it was for money. And they did get caught. And Mr. Robson told them that if they gave the winnings to charity, they wouldn't get into any more trouble. And then the quiet trip to Germany happened, but Gabriel didn't make the cut on that one. But were you disappointed that you didn't make the cut to go to Germany?
Disappointed not to make the trip to Germany, but definitely not upset not to make the choir. I wasn't that too bothered about it, truth be told. I think if it had been a football tournament or something like that, then I might have been a little bit more disappointed, but no, not really.
Yeah. Okay. So that moves us on then to Series 18, which you'd gone into the lower sixth, and the school had been split into different houses. The first time they'd really done this in Grange Hill, and Gabriel and the lads were talking about it. And Gabriel said he hadn't been bothered about, the house point system until the Reds had started winning everything. Now, as an Everton supporter, I can fully get on board with that statement of I wasn't bothered till the Reds started winning everything. That is definitely something hearing that the Reds are winning everything is definitely a sentence I hate. So Gabriel became one of my favourites when I heard him say that.
Well, as a Spurs, and I'd say the Reds are
brilliant. And then they had a conversation about a lad called Jerome, who was a sixth former, played by Nicholas Pinnock, and he was like one of them lads that always seemed to be at school. He was taking 4 A levels. He was brilliant at sport. He was brilliant at everything. It just seemed like Superman, just like one of them lads. All the girls fancied him as well. And it's just like one of them lads when you're at school and you just think, God, there's no need for him. There was always someone, wasn't there, at school? But yeah, Nicholas Pinnock, who's obviously gone on to do, all sorts of things. When you're acting in a program like that, do you look at someone and think, my God, they're so good, they're going to go far, or is it hard because you're all kids and not everyone wants to be an actor, they're just doing it as something to do? Did you ever look at someone and think they're really good?
You did. I think the other thing as well is you're never quite sure whether people were in it because they wanted to be in Grange Hill.
Yeah.
Or whether they looked at that as a career. So there was, I remember Margot Margot Selby was very big into art.
Yeah.
And she was taking her A levels at the time and things like that. And that's what she wanted to go down.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, I don't want to speak for her, but I'm sure that I had a conversation with her before. And she said that when this is done, that's me done with acting, and I'm going to go down the route of doing my art and doing things like that. And that seemed to be the same with a few people. So you never knew if their heart was really in it.
Yeah.
And it was just more of a case of that this is a great ride, and I'm enjoying it. And then whatever comes from that comes from it. It was one or two. I mean, you could see that people like Kevin Bishop was a funny lad, and he was probably going to do it, and also a really good actor. And so you could see that he was probably going to go on to do some pretty good things. But by and large, I mean, there were some good actors. I mean, they casted well, Granger. They always did. And I think that's what a lot of the characters always in the forefront of people's memories, because of not just the storylines and everything that Granger used to do by tackling the big discussions and the big storylines, but also the actors that were involved in it. They chose well.
Yeah. Brilliant. Now, Gabriel, when he was in sixth form, it's fair to say he didn't have much luck with the girls, did he? I know there was a bit where Paula was trying to get into Jerome's good book. We've just been talking about Jerome there, and Gabriel and Paula went for a coffee, and Jerome and Liz were there. So Paula went all flirty on Gabriel there, and when they were going home, Gabriel asked Paula out, and she told him to get a life. The way that Paula could do it, obviously played by Abby Hart, who I'm told is completely different to the character of Paula Webster. She was completely different, I was told. And then the school had a fundraising day where the girls had a rugby match. I don't know if you can remember what your role was in this. No, you're nodding at me there, so you'll have to tell.
I seem to remember dressing in something a bit feminine. I do remember that. I think there was me and Ian. I think Jamie and Martina all dressed the same.
Yeah.
Go on.
All dressed as cheerleaders. Colin was with you as well. Colin Ridgewell was there as well, but he was tiny at that point. Like, now, when I watched those scenes where you're trying, it looks like you're trying your hardest not to be seen. If I'm completely honest, the wig's always in front of your face, or you're always looking away from the camera. I don't know if that was intentional, like, but it's quite obvious who the others are. But I had to go back and watch those scenes to make sure that it was definitely you.
I remember when we went from the studios to the location.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but we ended up going in Martino's car. He drove. I don't know why we went in his car rather than on the bus down there. But for whatever reason, there was 4 or 5 in his car driving there. And then thinking to myself, if we get pulled over by police, because it's all young, so it was from 17, 18, whatever it was. If we get pulled over by police, I do not know how we're going to explain this away.
Brilliant. So Gabriel and Brian then went to see Joe, because Joe had a job as well. He worked at go-karting place, and Joe wasn't happy because Jessica had turned up and was on the track while he had to work. And Joe asked Gabriel and Brian to look after Jessica for him. And Brian then told Gabriel that he thought Jessica fancied him, even though she'd been going out with Joe. So Gabriel then decided that if he drove his go-kart really fast, that Jessica would be really impressed, which is what lads do. It's how lads think, isn't it? You know, I see it now around by ours. Lads thinking, you see a lad on a bike. I don't know what it's like by yours, but if a lad's on a bike and he sees a group of girls, 9 times out of 10, he's going to pull a wheelie because he thinks that they're going to be really impressed by this if I pull a wheelie here. So they start driving, but Gabriel couldn't keep up with her. He just couldn't get near her, and he gave up, saying Jessica was a maniac. So that seemed to be over before it even started, that one. So he's tried it with Paul, that he's had the thing with Jessica, and then luckily for Gabriel, Dennis and Josh had started a Lonely Hearts service in like the school listing sheet and told the sixth formers. But Gabriel at first said it was a stupid idea. But later we see him giving his information to Dennis and Josh and saying If anyone finds out about this, you're dead. And we then see Dennis giving Gabriel his money back because the listing sheet was banned, so there was no more Lonely Hearts column. And then Robin then told Gabriel that, he didn't need to advertise. He just needed to ask someone nicely. So he asks Robin nicely. And Robin told him to drop dead. He never had the look there, did he, at all? But were you bothered that they never paid you up properly with anyone?
No, not really. I mean, I was very similar to the character of Dave. Right. I didn't know much, to be honest, mate. But no, not really. I mean, there was so many different storylines that I was involved in and things like that. Yeah. The girls thing really didn't bother me in the slightest.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I was similar when I was at that age anyway. I was more of a lad's lad, and I'd be out on the streets and football and everything else anyway. And I wasn't interested in girls at that time either, to be honest.
I think Gabriel and me were very similar as well, if I'm completely honest. Now, Gabriel and Brian got work experience at a coach firm, thinking that they'd be learning about the business. But when they got there, because they turned up really smartly dressed, Brian's got a briefcase with him. But when they get there, they find out that they're going to be cleaning the yard and the coaches. And they start cleaning the coach. And Brian was asked to put a video in, and there was already one in there, which turned out to be a porn film, which they obviously watched. And I've got to say, that was a bit of a dream situation for lads back in the day, wasn't it? Finding something like that. But I'm guessing that there wasn't an actual film in there. You just had to act your backsides off like you were actually watching it.
That would have been really awkward if they did put the film on. So that would have been really awkward. No, just the acting that there was something just felt a little bit weird and a bit awkward, to be honest with you. But if they would have got, can you imagine if they would have about telling us? You would have got a natural reaction.
Yeah. And then when this happened, Gabriel and Brian went on their lunch. And when they got back, the coach had gone. And Brian said that he hadn't changed the tapes over. So they went and told Becky, who was working in the office at the coach firm. And then there's all that stuff with Jacko, because he was doing the courier. He had to get on the bike and was able to catch up with he must have been going at some speed. He was able to catch up with the coach on his push bike and was able to get them the correct tape in time. And then that moves us on to Series 19, which was your last series, and you were in the upper sixth. But it started off we've talked about some of the serious stuff that there is, and we talked about some of the light-hearted stuff, but this one started with, there was a gun in the school. There'd been an air gun scene, and everyone's lockers were asked to be searched. And the sixth formers didn't agree with it because they should be trusted because they were older. But Gabriel was like, well, I don't mind being said. He was like the voice of reason here. We shouldn't be seen as anything special. To which Paula, again, says to him, nothing makes you special, Gabriel. And you just think, but that was Paula all over, wasn't it? So Paula then, said Gabriel just wanted to keep his nose clean so he'd get good marks at the end of the year. And then she told Mr. Robson that they were all in agreement for not getting the lockers searched, except for Gabriel, the scab, was what they called him. And there was also a French exchange in this year. There'd been one years earlier, but there was one here. So they had a French Revolution themed disco, and Gabriel was part of a group that had a guillotine on stage. I don't know if you remember that. There was Gabriel, Jacko, Joe, and Becky. And Mr. Robson wouldn't let them use it on any pupils. So Mr. Parrott kindly volunteered. And he got in, and the guillotine was set off. The lights went off, and a fake Mr. Parrott's head was held up to the audience. But I was wondering if you were given any sort of training into how that machine would get used. But from the look on your face, you don't even remember it happening.
I don't, mate. I really, really don't remember it at all, no.
Right, okay. Well, we'll move on from that then. Because this, I think, was arguably your biggest storyline that was given to you was the school production of Grease. Because up until then, I think it's fair to say that you hadn't really had a storyline of your own. It was always like you were associated with someone else, or if there was a storyline, there was a group of you. But I think, given you
Yeah.
the role here of the director, did you go to them and ask for that, or did they come to you and say this is what we want to happen?
No, no, I mean, I've been there for what 3 series previous to that, and you're
Yeah.
right. I was always someone who was always sort of with groups of the storylines, all the storylines that went on. I was there, but I was never really the center of attention of it or the focus of it. So I was sort of wondering if I would get a storyline or whether they would just that would be how it turned out for me while I was there. So to get one in the last series was pleasing. I certainly didn't ask for it.
Right.
That wouldn't be my style. But no, then they came to me and they said, okay, we're going to do this production of Grease. And so you're going to have a pretty center stage for that one with regards to being the director. So yeah, I was really pleased with it.
Good. Because it's good, I think, because as someone that was never involved in a school production as well, it's good to see that the director isn't just directing the play. They had everything else going on. Gabriel did, like, so you see him, in like the art rooms with Mr. Brisley showing like set designs, and the fact that he wanted a full-size car in the production, and Mr. Brisley is like, well, you can't really have a car on there. But then he was like, well, do you like the designs? And he goes, yeah. So he just took that as an approval, and off he went to go and get things built. And
if you're going to do it, you got to do it properly.
Yeah, definitely. And at the rehearsals, Cecile Lefebvre came in. Cecile Lefebvre, played by Sally Ann Marsh. And Gabriel was really pleased to see Cecile when she came in. She was there to help with the set building. And Gabriel went through to help with the set building as well. Now, they all had a break. And Robin had bought pizzas for everyone. And Robin had been feeling like quite sort of like disillusioned with school and alone, and because she wasn't involved with the play and she was focusing on her exams and stuff, she was having a few issues. But Gabriel started dancing with her, and they're talking and getting quite close, and you think that maybe something's going to happen. But at that moment, Gabriel then heard Cecile singing, and he let go of Robin and walked over to Cecile, and that's where you see Robin sort of gets like quite like sad and dejected and walks away. I don't know if that was a chance that Gabriel blew there, or if it was him getting his own back for when she told him to drop dead earlier on. I don't know. But Gabriel was made up with Cecile being there. You can sing and all, even though she wasn't a pupil at the school, and she was just there as the daughter of Madame Lefebvre, the French teacher. Paula came and told Gabriel that she'd found a pianist for the play. And Gabriel said, well, Cecile's going to do it. And Paula got jealous and said, why didn't Cecile just do everything? She could even have air parts. Now, Paula was playing Rizzo in Greece. And Gabriel then told Paula that she was a natural Rizzo.
He was.
Yeah, she was, yeah. But Paula was like,
I'm not think of anyone better to play Rizzo, could you?
Yeah, no, definitely not. When they found out it was Greece, you look at the characters and you think, yes, there's no way anyone else is going to play Rizzo here. But she wasn't sure how to take that statement from him. You're a natural Rizzo. And Gabriel said, well, you should take it as a compliment. But what I like is you see Gabriel getting more and more stressed with being the director and running it all. I'm going to ask you this: did you get any inspiration from any directors you'd worked with when you were doing this?
Absolutely not. No. It was a case of just sort of hit the ground running really and do everything yourself. I mean, I think also Gabriel just turned into a real stress head, didn't he? Did, yeah. A real stress head during the directing of it. And I think there was a scene right at the end as well when you'll probably get to it, but when there was the standing ovation and they all sort of pushed him forward to sort of take their claim and everything, and you could see them. It was just more relief that it was over and it had been less, I think, more than anything.
Brilliant, yeah. Because I remember having to organise when I was in sixth form. Our school did a party at Christmas for the pensioners in the area, and I had to organise that once. And I was exactly like I said earlier. I was very similar to Gabriel. That was me. that was me thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I think in the end, someone else had to take over from me because it just got to me that much. But yeah, I became that stressed. And as I say, someone else said, look, Neil, we're going to do this for you because you clearly can't. And I was like, brilliant. You can have that. You can have all this stuff here. Here's all my paperwork. Go on. That's on you. But as I say, I think if I'd have been organising a school play, I would have been exactly the same there. I think
it was a bit like the Bryn character in Gavin and Stacey.
Yeah.
Organise Gwen's birthday party.
Brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant. The other thing that happened is the sixth formers went on a trip to the hologram laboratory. It was like one of these when immersive experiences were first sort of coming out. Now, did you know what was going to happen when you were there? Because there's a scene where you look genuinely terrified that something that was going on. Now, maybe it's just me, disrespecting you as an actor here. I don't know, but you look genuinely terrified at one point.
Well, we turned up. We weren't sure where we was going to go or what we was going to do with this. And they did toy with the idea of trying to find a location for it.
Yeah.
But if I remember rightly, the producers weren't really impressed with a couple of locations that they went to for it.
Yeah.
So they said, well, we're just going to build it then. And then they built it in the studio. So that was all in the studio.
Wow, yeah.
And we walked in for the first time and looked at it. And we just thought, wow, someone's actually sort of gone out and built this set. And we thought, Jesus, this looks excellent. And then, so we were doing those things. And I remember, I'm not sure if it was the director, it may have been one of the producers. She called me over to have a look at the screen of exactly what you're talking about. And she said, just look at your face. Look at your face. You look absolutely petrified. And then everyone just started erupting. That's serious. I looked at how scared I was of this thing. I think it was just, I just managed to nail it, I think.
Brilliant. No, fair play to you. Because as I say, I looked at it and thought, he genuinely looks really, really petrified there. Brilliant. So I had to mention that. We'll get back to Greece now. Gabriel seemed to be spending more and more and more money and telling people that he'd got a good deal on stuff. And then he was told by Mr. Robson that the ticket prices were going to be lowered. And you can just see him panic because Mr. Robson said they hadn't sold all the tickets the year before for the play. And Gabriel was like, yeah, but that's because last year's production was Shakespeare. More people will want to come and see Greece. So Denny had been out getting advertising to help with costs. But then she found out that, Cecile had been out and bought more leather jackets. And Gabriel said he wouldn't spend any more money after that. And then Lucy came in with a damaged ankle. And she was supposed to be playing Sandy and obviously couldn't. So Gabriel's like, what am I going to do now? And then Cecile said she'd stand in as Sandy. And Gabriel agreed to it. But the girl said if Cecile was going to be in the play, then they weren't. And they all walked out. But they did have a change of heart. And they did agree to be in the play, but only if they could have a bit of fun. And you see them picking on Cecile when they're doing the rehearsals, like the bit with the wine. They shake the wine, pour the wine all over it. And obviously that's going to make Gabriel's head explode again. And then Denny then came and told Gabriel that it looked like they were going to break even. And as he was celebrating this, as Gabriel's celebrating the fact that they're going to be breaking even, Cecile pushed Joe into a mirror and they broke it. And Gabriel wasn't allowed to buy any more props because he was already over budget. But on the night of the play, Gabriel told Rachel that he was feeling sick, and she tried to put his mind at ease by telling him the play was going to be great, which it was. I've just mentioned Rachel there, Francesca. Could you tell that she was going to have some sort of career in comedy?
Nothing sort of burst out of me or anything like that. But she was very intelligent, very, very sort of quick-witted, and a real pleasure to work with. But if I could have guessed, would I have guessed that she would have gone down that road? No, not really, really.
Fair play. Okay. And the play was great, and as you said earlier on, they grab Gabriel, they put him to the front to make sure he gets the adulation that he deserved. like I say, the play went off without a hitch. But in the audience, there was a bit of a hitch because Mrs. Maguire was giving birth in the toilets. Was the only thing. The only real bit of drama there was the fact that Mrs. Maguire had to give birth in the toilets there. Now, I need to ask you this. Did you know that Daniel Mays was one of the T-Birds?
Yeah.
So, right, okay.
I got on pretty well with him, to be honest with you. We come from similar sort of background and then sort of disappeared. And I'll be honest with you, I hadn't really given him much thought after we sort of parted and went our separate ways. And then I remember sort of seeing him in something. I can't remember what it was. I'm thinking, I know him, but I can't think where I know him from. And then it took me a little while to think, shit, it's from great. I remember now. And it sort of dawned on me, and he's had an amazing career. Yeah, no, really, really good. I got him really.
When I can't remember which episode it was, which episode of the podcast it was, whose interview it was I was researching, but I was watching the Grease, and I did exactly what you did when you saw him later on. I saw him in those scenes in Grange Hill thinking, who's that? I know who that is. Who's that? And then realised it was him. Like, now, the sixth formers entered the series with a party in the staff room dancing to We Go Together. Gabriel danced with Robin. I say danced. A couple of moves with Robin again. But then, obviously, because of Upper Six coming to an end, that was the last time that we saw Gabriel. How did you feel about having to leave?
We knew it was inevitable because obviously the year that we had, so we all knew it was coming. So it wasn't as if we had a bit of a shock and they just sort of turned around and said to me that, we're not renewing your contract. Everybody was all at the same boat. We all knew it was happening, but pretty sad. We knew it was going to be the last scene and stuff. And yeah, just sort of, it was the end of an era, and you knew it was time to move on. But because we knew it was coming, it wasn't as hard hitting as what we thought it'd be. But yeah, pretty sad. Same as anything at that time when you're engrossed in something for so long and you've enjoyed it, and now it's got to come to an end. It's always sad.
And did you get recognised much when you were out and about when you were in Grange Hill?
Yeah, used to get it a lot. Pretty much everywhere you went, to be honest with you.
And what was the reaction like?
Really positive. I mean, I think the Gabriel's character wasn't a controversial character. So like we spoke about earlier, there was nothing in there that would sort of make anyone have any animosity to me as the actor of Gabriel. He was a pretty easygoing character or anything like that. So there was never any sort of hangover from anything like that. Yeah. But most of the time, you'd also get a lot of people who knew my face but couldn't place where it was from.
Yeah.
So I'd get people come up and say, are you from Stoke, or did you go to school in Oxford or something like that? And it was like, no. And I'd play along with it sometimes, and I'd just like to sort of see their reactions until they sort of finally get there. And then they go, yeah, that's where
yeah. Do you ever get recognised now?
Very rarely, to be honest with you. I think with the power of the internet, though, people find out. So, I mean, my daughter plays in a football team. She's 14, and one of the parents, I don't know how they found out, but I certainly don't go around talking about it. But one of the parents found out about it, and then obviously everyone else then jumps on their phone, Googles my name, and the picture comes up and everything else, and then it's, oh my God, yes, I remember now. Look
at those curls.
Rarely. Wow, this is what I mean. Look at me now, but I look nothing like it now.
Brilliant. Okay, so after Grange Hill, then you still continue to act. I know IMDb is not the most reliable source of information, but from what conversations we've had, yours might not be right at all. So you were in The Bill. You did a few episodes of The Bill.
We've got about 4 episodes of The Bill. Yeah,
but different characters every time.
Different characters. Yeah.
And then you mentioned earlier about being in Real Women. Now, obviously, you've been acting for a while, but to go into Real Women with, Pauline Quirk and Michelle Collins, Gary Webster, all these people, and to be in the same family as Pauline Quirk and Gary Webster, that must have been like an unreal thing. Richard Graham as well, like that must have been a big thing. Like
it was amazing. So I knew about the part, and I knew that I'd be playing the part of Pauline Quirk's son. And I knew it was going to be directed by Phil Davis, who was from Quadrophenia. But didn't really know anything more about the rest of the cast. And again, it was a similar thing to what Grange Hill was that we went for a read through in a rehearsal room in Shepherd's Bush. And I remember, again, sitting down in this big circle and then just seeing star after star walk through the door. And it sort of dawned on me that actually how big this show is going to be because of the quality of the actors that had come through. And I thought, wow, I weren't expecting this. But, pretty amazing experience.
Yeah, because like I've said there, you know, some of the people, but also like Gwyneth Strong's there, Frances Barber, Leslie Mann. You must have just, that would blow my mind. Even as a professional actor at that age, I think that would blow my mind, to be honest.
Well, I think even if I knew that would blow my mind. Imagine being in this room and then just one walk in after another and not knowing they was going to be in this production.
Yeah,
it was mind-boggling.
Yeah. So after that was 1999. Your next acting credit that I've seen was 2006. So what did you do? What did you do in between there? I'm assuming you were still acting, were you?
I was. Yeah. I've done. I also done an episode of Biker Grove, believe it or not.
Oh, right. Wow.
I'm not sure if there's anyone who else has done the double of Grange Hill and Biker Grove, but
Zamo's mum. Zamo's mum was in both.
Oh,
yeah, she was in both.
There we go.
There may well be other people, but she's the only one that I know. Like, yeah, and yourself now.
Yeah, there was an episode of that where one of the guys from Newcastle came down to London to find his brother, and he couldn't find him, and then he ran into a bully, and I played the bully, believe it or not. Right. 5'6", and I was cast as the bully. Yes, I've done that, and there was a lot of other. I've done the film with Nigel Planer, what we spoke about earlier, and there was a lot of corporate stuff as well, because at that sort of time then as well, like I am now, I'm a London black cab driver, and so directors also knew that I drove the cab, so I ended up getting a lot of work as cab drivers. I played it in at least 2 or 3 other productions of things. And it'd also be a corporate company that I worked for. So when they wanted scenes with a cab pulling up and someone getting in the cab or something, that was normally me driving about in that. So there was a lot of work. But yeah.
Yeah. So you just mentioned being black cab driver there. So whenever I'm putting an episode of the podcast out online, I put picture clues, like, so people can guess who the guest is going to be. And whoever guesses correctly first gets to ask the next guest a question. So I've got a question for you here from someone called Mark Rutter. And he said, you know, about you being a black cab driver. He said, obviously you've got to pass the knowledge before you can do that. Did you get your knowledge training from Mark Baxter, who used to be in Grange Hill, who was also has passed the knowledge as well and has trained people?
Is that right?
Yeah. Or was it just a case?
Okay. No, I never knew that.
Right, okay. Okay.
I think, to be honest with you, a lot of the reason why I've done the knowledge, not just the main reason, but one of the reasons was to continue the acting. So I knew that when I came out of Grange Hill, it was then going to be, just from talking to a lot of actors, you're out of work probably more than you're actually in work. And so a lot of actors will take on jobs of working as a waiter or in a bar or something like that, biding their time for when the next part comes along. So I knew that I needed to get a job that would allow me the time and the and everything else to allow me to go and work and take time off. So being self-employed would allow me to just drop everything to go and do any other acting parts that came along. Right. So that was a big part of why I done it.
Right. Okay. And so, what are you doing now then? You just mentioned the black cab driver, but I'm going to say this: we're having this conversation now. This conversation started before 8:00 on a Sunday morning. This interview, because you're in Turkey at the moment. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm in Turkey. It's nice and sunny at the moment. It's a little bit later than 8:00, so thank you for making it easy.
I'm guessing you're not driving your black cab around Turkey at the moment, like.
Not at the moment. I'm not. No, although I am just as busy, to be honest with you. So I've got a property here and I've got a business here that I'm coming over and tying up some loose ends. Hence why I'm here at the moment. But it's not just that. I'm also a semi-professional football referee. I'm running a family life, so I'm spinning a few plates at the moment, to be honest with you. But if truth be told, I like that. I like being busy. I like having a lot of things on my mind. I'm not one to just sit around do nothing. I'll get bored very quickly.
Right. Okay. That's where me and Gabriel stop. I think that's where our likenesses stop. I'm quite happy. One of my favourite things. I saw Matt LeBlanc say this line of one of my favourite things to do is to do nothing. It's something I'm really good at, and I've taken my inspiration from him there. So yeah. So are you still in touch with anyone from when you were on Grange Hill?
No, not really. I speak to Ian Rushmere from time to time. We sort of catch up on things. I bumped into Tracy Murphy a few years back in a bar in a ski resort. But by and large, no, not really. It's a little bit sad, really, that we sort of just apart and gone out on our separate ways and stuff. I'm also not massive on social media, right? I'm not big on Facebook or anything like that. Occasionally, I sort of hear things, and one of the things that I heard from actually this podcast was the passing of Jay Mulhane. I didn't know that because we'd sort of drifted apart. I didn't hear about it. It was on this podcast. I think it was your interview with Ian that I found out about that, which devastated me. But yeah, these are the things that you then sort of, because you don't sort of stay in touch, you don't hear about things, you know. And it's a little bit sad. It'd be quite nice to sort of have a catch up and see what sort of roads people have gone down.
You need to listen to more episodes of the podcast then. While you're over in Turkey, you can do that there. Or while you're driving around London in your cab, you can have a listen there. Like, okay, so we are sort of coming towards the end of the interview now, Darren, and I'm going to ask you the same few questions that I ask everyone at the end of every episode. And they're all Grange Hill related. Okay, so over the last few years, there's been some talk of a Grange Hill movie in the works. Phil Redmond's written it, but we haven't heard anything for ages. So we're not entirely sure it's actually going to happen. But what do you think of the idea of a Grange Hill movie?
I'm not sure how it'd work, if I'm honest. But it'd be 100% something that you would definitely see, wouldn't you? Anyone who's been in Grange Hill fan, you would absolutely want to see what it's like. It'd be interesting. I'm not sure how they would do it. And what sort of genre of people, because the show would run for so long, how they would sort of get every single genre of the cast to do it and how it worked. But I'd absolutely be interested to see it.
Brilliant. And if you were asked, would we see a return of Gabriel Woods?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't act anymore.
Right.
I'm not an actor anymore. I've now sort of moved on from that, and I'm quite happy in the things that I do. I probably wouldn't have the time either, if truth be told. But yeah, I don't think it would be for me. But you never know, dear. Never know.
Okay, no, never say never. Never say never. All right. So you've said that you were a Grange Hill fan, and so other than Gabriel Woods, who was your favourite character in Grange Hill?
I think that's a good question. So many, but I'd probably say the one where I really started to get into Grange Hill would have been with Tegs, Sean Maguire, and what was Rachel Roberts' character? I can't remember.
Justine Dean.
Justine Dean. Yeah. I think that's probably when I really started getting into it. I remember the sort of the Zamo thing before that, and sort of knew about it, but really sort of when I started to watch every episode and made sure that I was at home when it started was probably round about then. So it was just a little bit before me. But actually I met Sean a few times before that. While he was in it, I sort of met him because strangely enough, we had caravans at the same place in Clacton. So he would come to family, and so my cousins used to come with me. We'd be friends with him and his family and things like that. So when I then started in in Grange Hill, he was in EastEnders, and that was all filmed at Elstree as well. So we'd bump into each other then.
Yeah, brilliant. And if you couldn't have played Gabriel, which other character would you like to have played? Because I know you said you went for an audition before you went for Gabriel, but if you couldn't have played Gabriel, which character would you like to have played?
Oh wow, I don't know. I mean, I was quite happy with Gabriel's character. Right. Gabriel, I think, to a certain extent, very similar to me. Right. Very jokey, very sort of happy-go-lucky. Would always be in and around the banter and the jokes and things like that. So, no, I was quite happy with Gabriel. I liked him, and I wouldn't change it.
Brilliant. Okay. So the final question then, Darren, is why do you think there's still such affection for Grange Hill?
I mean, I think we've touched on it before. Grange Hill was just never afraid to tackle real big issues. It wasn't afraid to keep pushing that barrier of what people will think should and shouldn't be appropriate for particularly a children's program.
Yeah.
But any program really. I mean, we talked on it earlier about drugs, and we've spoken about the stuff with Brian and the inappropriate touching and stuff like that. I mean, that's hard hitting for any program, let alone a teenage kids program. But they do it in a way that, I mean, these things do happen. You know, it's not make believe. They do happen in life, and there will be children out there at that time who are experiencing that exact thing. And I think the beauty of the program is it would always take them things on, and not flinch.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, Darren, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great talking to you. Finally, because like you said, it's been a while that we've been in touch and messaging for. So no, honestly, thank you so much for coming on and making me get up at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning. But no, honestly,
it's been an absolute pleasure. I really
oh no, I've loved it. I've absolutely loved it. It's been great. And if you do happen to see Kevin the Fruit Bat, say hello from me, won't you? But no, honestly, brilliant. Thank you so much once again. It really, I've really enjoyed speaking with you. Yeah, it's been great. And to anyone that's listening, I'll speak to you next time. Cheers. Thanks. Bye-bye.